Hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a really good day. My name is Eva and I want to thank you guys for joining me in this healing meditation. Today we're going to be focusing on resolving from within us. Family sort of drama is the way that it wants to come up, but and this gets trivialized sometimes, yes, that as something that like everybody just deals with, but at the root of what we experience as like family drama can be some really dark, fearful belief. And this tends to happen to us when we're very, very small, when we are sort of forming our perception of the world, forming our identities, our beliefs about what we inherently are. So we're inviting in the spirits of forgiveness, of compassion, of humility, as we call attention to and let go of any self-righteousness, defensiveness, as we open ourselves up to all of our multidimensional layers and the links there within, to expose these beliefs that might have been imposed upon us, projected upon us, identities that were written on our lives that we no longer resonate with, limiting beliefs, fearful beliefs, unhealthy relationship dynamics, anything you might be going through at this time with family or friends, close associated people that feel like family. But certainly we'll be opening up the sort of blood historical records, genetic memory, moving through the lineage, through the ancestry. So this is going to, because this is collective, right? This is going to be very different for everybody who's watching it. And that's the intention, that these codes, these healing codes, these patterns, these frequencies, the resonance, the informational templates coming through are coming through your own consciousness. I am merely just sort of this sort of transmitter that's allowing it to bounce off of me to you, through within you, where we are one. So these codes will be, expressed uniquely through your consciousness for whatever stories, archetypes, people, situations, circumstances, events that you have dealt with, that you have internalized, that are making things difficult for you at this time, or making you kind of lose your peace, wig out, get angry. Just to resolve some of that from within us, knowing that you are strong, you are healed, you are whole, you are peaceful, you are loving, you are calm. Negative states are not inherent to our being. Other people's perception of what you are is not what you are. You get to choose to see from peace. There's always another way to see things. There's always different ways, different perceptions. There's not one. There are 8 billion different perceptual realities that we all just kind of connect and share into, but there's not one narrative that is true. All narrative and archetypal story is at the level of corruptibility or unique viewing, unique choice to what the meaning is. Remember, we give it everything the meaning it has for us. So two people who grew up in the same house could experience things very differently. They might be the same people, but they have different parents. They experience it differently, right? And the parents experience it much differently than the children and from each other, right? We're opening up, we're getting to above that level of seeing from inside the story to try to bring the peace of reality, the love of the true reality and unity, to help us look kind of from above this physical circumstance, to offer forgiveness for ourselves and others, and to be able to see that we have a choice to see outside of this in the first place, that we're not stuck from within fearful perspectives and beliefs, that we can extend ourselves into our awareness of where we are outside of this narrative to say, oh, you know what? I see how this all played out. I get to choose to see this differently. I get to choose to see this as, these are people who are acting out of wounds. The wounds are not who they are. The wounds are not what I am. And so I offer release to this situation. Now, that's not to say that if you are still experiencing difficulty, abuse of any kind, harshness, anything that's intentionally being done or unintentionally, but it's still having the effect of hurting you. You do not need to keep yourselves in those situations. That's having healthy boundaries. As I see it, that's being able to see that you will not participate with people's delusions about themselves and about you. It's choosing love of self, and that is choosing to see the other as their most authentic, loving self by not participating in the delusions that they have about themselves, and certainly not by putting yourself in a situation where you feel like you're being compromised, or you're compromising your wellness, you're compromising your peace. There's always going to be difficult situations, yes, but I think if you just take a moment to look at that for yourself, that you can sort of discern the difference between people who are having difficult moments with the intention to heal and people who do not have the intention to heal and are perpetuating suffering for themselves, and the byproduct is other people experiencing that suffering that they are just radiating. The only place where we can powerfully offer healing to them, where we can offer any kind of healing or any kind of love, is from a state of peace. It's not to be interacting with the freaky outy vibrations of lower dimensions. It's to see ourselves in the peace so that we can very clearly direct how could we be most helpful. Perhaps to be most helpful is to disengage. And that's letting go of strict duality, right? Strict ideas of good and bad and what we're taught we have to do to take care of other people. This is very different than what we're taught in the world and the paradigm that wants to perpetuate fear, subjugation, manipulation, control, and energy siphoning to continue timelines of fear, to just keep looping old cycles, right? So taking deep breaths in and out of the heart space, calling forth the consciousness of our highest selves, where we are aware of our unity, calling in ourselves at the soul dimensional levels, these sort of monadic higher levels, all of our multidimensional expressions into this now. Calling in the higher selves of whoever we are clearing the proverbial air with. These people don't have to be alive. They don't have to be people you're in contact with. Sometimes it's important to understand that we're connected at many different levels. Just because you're not physically speaking to someone doesn't mean that you can't resolve your issues with them in dimensions that are not quite physical. Sometimes that's what we have to do, because it is not within our physical journey to remain in resonance with people as they're making choices in the physical world. But we can, it's not abandoning them, it's not abandoning yourself, it's not running away. It's resolving it at a level which is just as real as the physical to us. Where this is the time of expanding out perception. It's not, imagination is not unreal. If you are dealing with things that are in more etheric levels, it doesn't make them unreal. It doesn't make it something, if it's affecting you, if it's something you believe in, then that's something that needs to be considered and looked at and worked through. From the perspective of the healed state, which is where we bring ourselves, where we bring our illusions up to this light, for disillusion, for showing what they are in true reality outside of time, space, and form of our eternal selves. That is the energy, the healing energy that we're working with, to inform our awareness that we are dreaming and that we make all of this meaning. We make all of this meaning. We attribute all of this meaning. We give attachment via meaning. You gave it the meaning, so you can give it a different meaning. It's not inherently existing from its own side, right? It's existing as you perceive it. Now you realize that. That's really what all of this work is for, that we realize that we're dreaming. Oh, I made this up this way, so I can choose to see a different way, to free myself from the pain that the negative attachment was giving me. So feel yourself at one with this deep peace of your eternal being, the perfect peace of the self in unity, the ever-extending love. Nia shini kintati sanayon tapago shinitisi. This might come through as like purging feelings of just being wrong, like being just, there's just something inherently wrong with you, of needing to be a certain way for certain people, of not feeling like you're ever enough, of working so hard and trying so many different things because you really feel like you have to impress, you have to prove yourself, all of these different things. We burn ourselves out with this, and we really, really continue to disconnect ourselves from our eternal state and our awareness of our eternal reality as loving creator beings. You are well within your right as a cosmic eternal citizen to choose your happiness, to choose your freedom, and knowing that when you choose that for yourself, you are acknowledging reality and you offer that to all others. You don't get to choose what other people perceive or how they perceive you or what they choose to perceive out of your choices of what you want to do for your life. But their perception of that doesn't have anything to do with you choosing your peace and your inherent beingness if they choose to perceive that as something that they don't like. Ya tuyo konai nishana yantosi kanai niki hiataya soyondaya yoshini kyontati kai siai yana yushata saratuari hiana yana sharakia sarayuto sonoyo nondai hindara kihoto arayu shono sondais no sharai soyondai sio yagini kindayo koaishi. Sonandi shini santaso no shana sarayiti sai. Sometimes in spiritual communities we hear people say like, oh, you start doing this, especially with like strict, not saying the law of attraction is not real, but with strict adherence to only the law of attraction is the way that you're trying to expand yourself and like manifest things, that there's this like idea in some spiritual communities that nothing difficult or challenging will ever happen again, that your life is just sunshine and rainbows and like everything is always wonderful. That's not really how I see it. It doesn't mean as we choose this spiritual path, that thing we will not see in the physical difficult things, or experience in our emotions or our feelings or our mental states difficult things. It is that you, once they arise, that you have the capability of seeing from your eternal perspective that there is a free will choice of how you will perceive this. Will you let yourself be swept away into old limiting paradigms and beliefs, or will you access your higher power of choosing peace, of knowing that just because things look like shit, that you can't choose to see them peacefully and choose to see that this is an old, lower vibrational reality dismantling? We're going to continue to see rough things. It's rough out there for a lot of people. It's rough out there for people who are choosing fear and having a really difficult time letting go, because fear is comfortable. I mean, what we're familiar with is comfortable. It creates our reality. It's where we live. It's a lot to let go of that. We know that that's difficult. And for people who have no context of a soul, or I don't really even think you have to talk about God to be into this kind of stuff. I look at it from the perspective of quantum physics like quite a lot. I've sort of both, but I think that you can look at it from just a consciousness particle perspective as well, and currents and fields and expressions and instruction sets and all of that. So really it's for everybody. No one has to follow one narrative for this. But people who don't have even access to that they believe that they could perceive from those consciousness levels, right? it's not for us to judge how the world is falling apart or how people choose to respond to it. Our work is to get into a peaceful enough state, a powerful enough state, which has nothing to do with external power as like negative agenda would have you perceive it, or the energy of the oppressor, the empire, whatever. But that you choose that detachment, right? That compassionate witness, that non-reaction, that responding with love. That is your most powerful place. And these healing sessions that we offer are just to help you clean up these lower dimensional realms so that you can see that for yourself, so that you have the empowerment of choice. Will we always choose peace? No. Sometimes we get very swayed by the physical circumstances, these lower dimensional reality set that we experience ourselves in. Understand that's a mistake. You make a mistake, you don't like the way it feels, you feel like that wasn't in accordance with your inherent being. Guess what? You never have to choose that again. There's no consequence for it except that you lost your peace, and that's a blessing because you were able to recognize that you lost your peace, and then next time you just choose differently. There's no need to beat yourself up about any of those things. Far easier said than done, especially when we are, as this in the intention of this video is, to root out what makes us just like sort of automatically behave that way. And very often, now you can look at this from the perspective of like lifetimes and lifetimes here on earth, or in other expressions of form, depending on what you believe, or just in this lifetime from your childhood and you know, your family of origin. Everybody thinks about these things differently, right? But I believe there is a outside of dimensional reality space where we can look at all of it and see it all as the same, as these same sort of life, anti-life currents, and whatever way that comes up for you is how you're perceiving it, it's how you're making sense of it. That's all good. There's no wrong or right way to do that. There's no story that's right. It's, from my perspective, like really not at the level of story. We use story to understand it, but at a certain point you say, oh, that's the feeling, that's the vibration, that's the resonance, that's the frequency, that's the pattern. I see it. I don't need to keep holding on to the story. I see it. I'm gonna write a new story. Naya shekihaya sonon takina yinisha yetu hiwai shnikintayo. Onaya nai tata sarahioto shana yinisitai. Inanda tihatoko. This is coming up as like expectations that you have for yourself, expectations that you have ingrained in you from other people, wanting to satisfy other people, what you believe it is to be a good person, and how that could actually be compromising your happiness and your peace. Shia soninan tihoanayon to ayoshono sondapana hinanda tahina kaini shanayini sanayoto ai shiki. Remember, there's expansion and learning in every choice. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about following a set path. It's about choosing in response to the moment what is most expansive for you, what is most peaceful for you, what is going to illuminate and enlighten your experience. Because the point of this is, the point of being alive is to be alive. The point is joy. The point is more experience. It's more expression. It's just more. Expand into more. Sitayo shanin dayesono kuntahara iatushono sani kanati sanayinaiti. Now, and our holding the awareness of our eternal reality is kind of crucial for this, because that lets us see this without duality, without a belief in death or sin, which leads us to not doing things, which might actually expand us more. Hita korikani kuyuntosimua toshini tasiti huai okona kinaini hinantaori kini shana sarayoto sono shana yitayakoa. Shukuaraiti sini, sharaiti saya kuanainiti sanayu, unanashiriti saya toahihi, orihaya sono shimyunta kiati sarayoto yuntai, yanayati karayoto shonasana sharatai, sanayoto anti saratu aishikiha, uarati orihaya tundu ati shinosai, hindaro kurikihaya toshomosayayat, ananta sanashana sanai. Mantayat itatusua shayo kuatai, orihinian dati hana umante shiki ati ori iti sanayanu, yonantai ayona sharayayon to aishia soti shana santayokua. It's an assistance to help you see the best in yourself. Sinia shinikintiat. So once you've opened the doorway into that awareness, then you can always keep choosing. Sometimes it's hard. It's like oh God, what's coming up now? I don't know if you guys, maybe you have because you're here. If you've watched the X-Files, when Fox Mulder has he doesn't sleep in his bedroom, he sleeps on the couch, and when they open the door to his bedroom, just all this crap falls out, is what the image that came to my mind was. But it's like having just if all that crap was in front of the door, and you have to clear all this stuff in front of the door to the awareness of your true self because of all of this belief and programming and crap implantation and all this nastiness that's stuck. It's just junk, right? Maybe better if we take away the association with it being nasty or bad, because then we don't want to look at it. It's just junk. It's just stuff you don't need anymore. And so you just boop, boop, boop. When we attach to the meaning of the junk, then it's hard for us to let it go, right? It's just past. It's just the past. It's just, we don't need it anymore. If it's affecting you to bring you discomfort or pain or suffering, you most certainly don't need it. It's not needed. You do not need to suffer. Suffering is not beautiful. It's not glamorous. It doesn't give meaning to life. Hinandi sarayit. We glamorize suffering in a way that is not helpful. Tishakita konikintiata shikinasini kintayo guahiri tisiti shikinantoatish. Does it need to be explored so we can understand why we hold on to it? Yes. Does it need to be called I was really into romanticism and F. Scott Fitzgerald and feeling sad for fun and that is just, it's a hard part of our identity to let go of, but it is, if we're letting it disturb us, if we're letting it keep us from happiness and peace, then that's something we need to look at, why we're holding on to it like that and what we believe about ourselves that's making us hold so tightly to an association of being a person who's sad, who likes to be sad. Hinan dasunashana hinan tuanian dasane hinan ta aikuyu tuantaya oshiriti sanayana sha itasuyu tua ini shiniti sayatu unanashana saraya orikiaishi manta orihana una ani anahara iatuara hiti shayasana hinanti kana oraitua arayin datashuno samandra arikorkiana shuyo sotai shuyo no sana shiatayu orihinin datasana inishana kinandi siritario nambaya shuno sonontoateki Suyo shani kinta korri hikuyo to sono shaina indaya. Kinanta yiti ki ari kini kinia adidio soyo shabayo toko ari dio sot. Hitayo shoyo sonin tarato soyo shiti ki ai ki ioni. Indayo shiti sarahai kitayo to shoa. Inindasana shana sanaini sanai. Miana orihitas uyushini sanayanaini. Sarayat orikindaita yatakorkiaita. Inasarato yesoyonduyotoai. Marat orita tiator. Shihara hietisihi. Yana shana tasaraikia. Araitisini kiana ori korrikiantaiopoa. Hushoyo tosono shanaya sait. Sayashiani sana kanainia. Indarata riki orindu suruhietatait. Sui puanti shini sunti shihitayo sokipa porrikieti sarahitea. Hito orkini sonombu ashi, siki aikiendo sono shomonte hinisiritiari. Hitayo shoyoso ashiriki isiriki anyan, inanta sarahiti shia sanasai. Shiti saraito kaya shana sanaki, onanta saraitea, orihiti siki ati, otihini kinta ashi, sinintata sana shini sonta pashiritis. Now, sometimes this can be very difficult because there are beings, as the old paradigm falls apart, that are still very much trying to get you to stay down at their level so that this can all still be perpetuated. And that can feel like being attacked, and that can feel super, super, super hard. And it can feel persistent, and you can be like, oh my God, why is this still happening? I really recommend that we don't, while we still perceive it as fearful because we're still holding on to belief as fear, I don't think it's necessarily helpful to keep trying to, there must be something wrong with me. What is still wrong with me that this is still happening? I don't think that's helpful. And we all tend to kind of do that, even when we're on the healing journey, that there must still be something that I'm holding that is wrong. Let's let go of that. What is often happening is that you're choosing to release lower patterns, lower realities, lower archetypes, lower narratives. And the beings that you have been attached to, just by virtue of being alive in a shared reality, don't like that. They want you to stay down where they are so they can still perceive you, that you can be what they wanted you to be, or that anything could. So it's often not personal, it's beings trying to preserve their own reality that you were once a part of, and they don't know how to make sense of their life if all of these people are choosing to be free and they don't understand because they're not choosing that to allow themselves to see themselves as beings who could be released from their thought system, from from themselves, from inside, that they could choose that. And there are some beings, at different dimensional levels who know and don't want, because that's what they're choosing. But understand that when you choose your own freedom, as much as you might still perceive that they're trying to do that or that that's happening, they have no power over you in any way that could actually harm you. And I think that that's a really big thing that the spiritual community latches onto, the need for protection in certain ways that these beings could still really hurt you. We have to get ourselves to the dimension, the consciousness perspective that you are an eternal being who is incapable of actually being hurt, because death is not real. All of the beliefs, everything that comes out in this way needs to be brought into question about why we believe this and what is really at the root of why we're so afraid. Because if you believe that like negative aliens or fallen angelics or Luciferian agenda or whatever satanic stuff is having power that is capable of negating love, you will never be free of it. Love has no opposite. There is no power that could come against love. They're actually working with manifestations of love that they've just given a different meaning, and so that they've made it real for them, and they're projecting it upon a bunch of people in this universal matrix. Beings, not just humans. People can be non-human, I think. Sieta koni kana shini sanayana shanai hontahata sayasha sana shanayini sanayini kindara kiatesio shini tisi hintayo kori kini shini sanandi siriti arit. And I only bring that up because while that is in a lot of, depending on what you believe, right? Like there are people around the world who don't believe in angelics in the same kind of way, so that Luciferian rebellion won't make sense to them. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong. They're just operating in a different narrative system. The story is not the point, but at higher dimensional levels, whatever those stories are representing are sort of the blueprint for a lot of family suffering that we experience, because these things happened in higher dimensional realities and then trickled down into this density. This density exists because those things happened because these currents, these expressions, these informational patterns wrote themselves in this way. That's how everybody got down into like samsara. So our familial issues are stemming from higher dimensional, which are still low dimensional. They're not like heavenly realms. They're still low dimensional experiences from the scope of like outside of this universe. But at a certain point, the way that I see it and what I'm committed to in this work is you got to let go of all of that story. It's not uncovering your familial story to get to a story about cosmic war and fallen angelics so that you can attach to that story and then you can try to tell people about that story. That's not what I want to be doing, and that's not what I want to experience anymore, because I've been doing this my whole life and I've been very aware of those stories for my whole life, and I don't think that's what frees you. I don't think that's where the level of freedom is. If it's useful to you to understand these things, then by all means, I've gone down those rabbit holes too. I'm not saying don't. I'm saying from my perspective, that is not where your healing is ever going to be. Your healing is where you are healed eternally. And you can always see from that perspective. When you see from that perspective, you can trickle it down into all dimensions because it's existing outside of that. That experience is within it, but clouded, veiled off, but within the experience of love and eternal reality, because nothing could be outside of that. So when you have the awareness, when you illuminate that experience, you know, at a certain point we have to let go of these stories if you want to live in a world, this new earth, right? If you want to experience a new earth, you got to keep telling the story. You have to let go of the story, stop telling the story of the old world, or else you're going to create an experience where that exists because you're holding on to that and it's within your multidimensional system. It will be uncovered, but it doesn't have to be uncovered in strict like A, B, C, D, oh, now I go into the negative alien thing, and now I go into like all of this story, and this is like, you know, I lived this life with this person and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not trying to put judgment on that, but I really just don't think that that is the highest perspective of healing work, like healing sessions. But you know, I just don't think that that's helpful. You might notice it come out, but I don't think that it is where healing is. Healing is where you are healed. And if you could get to that perspective of reality, if you can get into that awareness, which you can because it's your eternal reality, it is what you are, why would you want to keep holding on to lower forms? Aren't we excited to find out what the new forms are? We have to dissolve the lower forms, but you can dissolve them from a place of power instead of seeing yourself from within them. Yatu kwani andoshimi kanda kwai kunishini kintisiki hito ritisiondi soneshiki sinandi siriti tayata shiontaya sonoshayisiki hatu ariki anahina tasaratu shanasanaini sarataishi ataiti sayishonosanayantu aikia anatu sarata shonosanai shayotodiat tools. And I'm speaking from my own experience too, right? I mean, going down those rabbit holes, while very freeing and has led me to just more experience, has revealed a lot of distortion that in my own healing work that I offer to other people, I'm not interested in bringing into this healing. I think we can heal outside of those narratives, and the awareness outside of those narratives dissolves those narratives. If you feel fear right now, you don't feel good right now, you have everything that you need right now to heal that fear. And because of the nature of the non-existence of time, you heal all of those timelines as you do that, because you are there is only now. It's running through nows. It's not really in the past if it's affecting you now. I think negative agenda wants us to keep telling those stories, and I just don't want to. miarit or ritish. And then you may be like, what does that have to do with how difficult my mother is? It's all written in the blueprint. And people who are attracted to this kind of work have lots of different experience with different things. My hope is to offer it at a level where everyone can bring their own understanding and their own stories and just let all of it go. You just let it go to the light. It's not to say that in lower dimensional forms these things aren't real. But if you want to believe that only love is real, you have to believe that these stories are unreal. The number one hump that you have to get over to really be healed is to accept that you live in an unreal world. And that might throw you for a loop for a second, and that's okay. But then all of the stories, none are more real than any other, just because they exist in different dimensions. You experience the effects of them now. And so you can heal the cause now. The cause is a belief in death, no matter what dimension you're in. That's not real. You can bring that to now. You can bring it in whatever context. If you want to bring it back to family stuff, I don't talk in too much detail about my own family problems because, my mother and my sister are still alive, and like my cousins and things like that. But like, if you get on the phone with certain people and they want to just keep telling the story of like what was hard or what we lost or all of these horrible things that happened or why we are the way we are and blah, 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 blah. And if you keep telling the same story but it's not bringing you healing, then maybe that's not the way to do it. Or you've reached some kind of insight, you've sparked a truth, you've cracked something open, but you're still telling the story, well then you're still bringing the past into the present to write your future. So at a certain point, this has to be let go of. It's not negating your experience. It's not bypassing. It is understanding where we are healed. These stories are not who we are. If you want to create a new world, you can't use the methods of a paradigm that is being completely dissolved. It's not going to work. And from my perspective, from what I've seen of reality bands, like dimensional experience bands, there are many different Earths, and you will experience what you choose. There's not a time I don't believe in some grand solar flash that's going to like wash away all of your negative beliefs. You have to do that work. If you want to keep choosing fear, as long as there are you, which is a consciousness unit of the whole, is choosing fear, it will be available for you to see. You won't be able to create with it here in those ways, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to be, creating into a different reality experience where there are other beings who want to create fear. We really need to take personal responsibility for this, for ourselves and for the collective. So I think we'll actually stop there. This feels like a pretty powerful place to be. It might not have been what you were expecting, but I feel like it is. I feel a lot of like clarity in my heart, in my solar plexus, in my throat. I feel like there's just like, it is this, as we unravel the mess of what's happening, what we think is happening, we resolve into this core. That's where we can make really powerful decisions about what we want to create and experience and offer. Because what we hold, we're always offering. To give and receive are one. So I'm going to stop it there. We seal this session into the highest light of unity with the intention of freedom for all living beings, freedom and happiness for all living beings. sending so much love to you. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I am thinking about doing a group session soon, and I had deactivated my Instagram, but I just keep going back and forth about what to do with social media because I have no idea, because it's not, I mean, I really want this all to be fun, or else why would I do it? Because this, if we want to create in a new world where we're creating with love and joy, and then we want to put out those expressions, we want to put out those templates, we want to put out those creations, that form. We want to make that form only with the vibration that we want to be seeing, yes? So I'm obviously still learning and healing and resolving and growing along with everybody else. So and it's all shifting so fast, and all of these lower dimensions are just sort of being reconfigured and swept away so quickly that it's, as I said, it's going to be kind of impossible to create with any kind of old, depending on where you are seeing from and what you can access. It'll just be kind of pointless to create in old paradigms that I can see pretty clearly are gonna get swept away. So there's really no reason to be worried about it, but we always somehow are because we still live in our bodies. But yes, if you guys are interested in a group session, leave a comment, let me know. You can always check out my website. I'm starting to release some meditation music, so that will be on my website, and maybe SoundCloud, maybe YouTube, who knows. So yes, thank you guys so much. Sending so much love. Bye.